transport ship shook violently as it entered the atmosphere of Station Omega-7. Inside the cramped cargo hold, 32 new recruits sat in metal seats bolted to the floor. Most of them were large men with thick muscles and hard faces. They had trained for years in the military academies of Earth. They knew how to fight. They knew how to kill. And they knew, without any doubt, that they were the best humanity had to offer. In the corner seat, pressed against the cold metal wall, sat a woman who looked completely out of place. Her name was Elena Vasquez, and she was 23 years old. She stood only 5 feet and 4 inches tall. Her arms were thin. Her shoulders were narrow. She weighed maybe 120 pounds if she was wearing her boots and carrying her bag. The man sitting next to her was named Marcus Cole. He was 6 feet and 5 inches of pure muscle, with a shaved head and scars running down his left cheek. He looked at Elena and laughed quietly to himself. "You lost, little girl?" he asked. His voice was deep and rough, like gravel scraping against stone. Elena did not look at him. She kept her eyes forward, watching the small window at the front of the cargo hold. Through it, she could see the massive space station growing larger as they approached. "I asked you a question," Marcus said, louder this time. A few other recruits turned to watch. "I heard you," Elena replied. Her voice was calm and steady. "I chose not to answer." Marcus laughed again, but this time there was anger in it. "Listen here. I do not know how you got on this transport. Maybe you know someone important. Maybe you got lucky. But this is the Galactic Defense Force. This is not a place for someone like you." Elena finally turned to look at him. Her eyes were dark brown, almost black, and there was something in them that made Marcus uncomfortable. It was not fear. It was something else entirely. Something cold and patient, like a predator waiting for the right moment to strike. "Someone like me," she repeated slowly. "And what exactly is someone like me? Small? Weak? Female?" Marcus counted off on his thick fingers. "The Krath do not care about equality or feelings. They care about killing humans. And they are very good at it. You will be dead in your first battle." Elena turned back to the window. "We will see," she said quietly. The transport landed with a heavy thud that rattled everyone's teeth. The rear doors opened with a loud hiss, and bright white light flooded the cargo hold. A voice boomed through the speakers. "All recruits, exit the transport immediately. Form a single line on the platform. Do not speak. Do not move unless ordered. Welcome to your new home." The recruits grabbed their bags and marched out into the light. Station Omega-7 was humanity's most forward military base, positioned at the edge of Krath territory. It was a massive structure floating in the darkness of space, home to over 50,000 soldiers and the most advanced weapons humanity had ever created. Waiting for them on the platform was a tall woman with silver hair cut short against her skull. Her uniform was decorated with more medals than Elena could count. Her name was General Sarah Chen, and she was the commanding officer of the entire station. General Chen walked slowly down the line of recruits, examining each one with cold, calculating eyes. When she reached Elena, she stopped. The general was tall, nearly 6 feet, and she looked down at Elena with an expression that was impossible to read. "Vasquez," the general said. It was not a question. "Yes, General," Elena replied. "Your scores in the academy were unusual." Elena said nothing. She knew what the general meant. Her physical scores had been among the lowest in her class. She could not run as fast as the others. She could not lift as much weight. She could not fight hand-to-hand against larger opponents and win. By every normal measurement, she should never have been selected for the Galactic Defense Force. But her tactical scores had been perfect. Not just good, not just excellent, perfect. In 200 years of the military academy's existence, no one had ever achieved a perfect score in tactical simulations. Until Elena Vasquez. "The simulations," Elena said. "They are just simulations, General. I know that real combat is different." "Is it?" General Chen asked. There was something strange in her voice, almost like amusement. "We shall see, Vasquez. We shall see." The general moved on, and Elena felt the eyes of every other recruit burning into her back. She had been singled out, noticed. And in a place like this, being noticed was rarely a good thing. The first week of training was brutal. The recruits were woken at 4 in the morning and pushed until midnight. They ran, They lifted. They fought. They studied. They were given almost no time to eat, and even less time to sleep. It was designed to break them, to find the weak ones, and send them home before they could get themselves and others killed. Elena struggled with the physical parts. She finished last in every run. She could barely complete the required number of push-ups. In hand-to-hand combat training, she was thrown to the ground again and again by larger opponents who showed her no mercy. Marcus Cole took special pleasure in humiliating her. Whenever they were paired for combat practice, he would slam her into the mat with excessive force. He would hold her down longer than necessary. He would whisper insults in her ear while the instructors pretended not to notice. "Just quit," he told her one night in the mess hall. "Go home, find a husband, have some babies. This is not your world." Elena was eating alone at a small table in the corner. She did not look up from her food. "I am trying to help you," Marcus continued, sliding into the seat across from her. "The Krath will not be as gentle as me. They will tear you apart. They will eat your flesh while you are still alive. I have seen it happen. I have seen what they do to the weak." "You have never fought the Krath," Elena said quietly. Marcus's face turned red with anger. "What did you say?" "You have never fought the Krath," she repeated, finally looking up at him. "None of you have. You have trained. You have watched videos. You have run simulations. But you have never actually faced them in real combat." "And you have?" Elena did not answer. She simply went back to eating her food. Marcus slammed his fist on the table, making the trays jump. "Answer me." "That is enough, Cole." The voice came from behind them. It was Lieutenant Commander David Park, one of the senior officers on the station. He was a compact man with Korean features and a reputation for being absolutely fair but absolutely ruthless when it came to discipline. Marcus stood up quickly. "Sir, I know exactly what you were doing." Park interrupted. "Get back to your quarters. Now." Marcus glared at Elena one more time before turning and walking away. Lieutenant Commander Park sat down in the seat Marcus had just left. "You do not make it easy on yourself," he said to Elena. "I am not here to make things easy, sir." Park studied her for a long moment. "Your tactical scores. They were not just high, they were impossible. I have been doing this for 20 years, and I have never seen anything like them." "I have a good memory," Elena said. "And I am good at seeing patterns." "Patterns," Park repeated. "In the simulations, you predicted enemy movements before they happened. You knew where the Krath were going to attack before they attacked. You anticipated strategies that even our best AI could not foresee. That is not just patterns, Vasquez. That is something else." Elena was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "My grandmother was on Colony 7. Park's expression changed. Everyone knew about Colony 7. 20 years ago, it had been a peaceful farming world with a population of over 2 million humans. Then the Krath came. They killed everyone. Men, women, children. They left no survivors. It had been the worst massacre in human history." "I am sorry," Park said. "I did not know. My grandmother was not supposed to be there." Elena continued, her voice steady but quiet. "She was visiting family. She managed to send one final message before the end. A video. She described everything she saw. Every detail. How the Krath moved. How they communicated. How they organized their attacks. She was a scientist, and even while she was dying, she was taking notes, trying to help." "And you watched this video?" "I watch it every day," Elena said. "I have watched it thousands of times. I know every word, every image. I have studied the Krath my entire life, not from textbooks, not from simulations, from the words of a woman who watched them kill her entire family and used her last breaths to teach us how to fight back." Park was silent for a long time. Finally, he stood up. "Get some rest, Vasquez. Tomorrow will be harder than today." The weeks continued to pass. Elena's body slowly grew stronger, though she was still the weakest recruit in physical terms. But something else was happening. In the tactical exercises, she was becoming impossible to beat. The exercises worked like this. Recruits were divided into 2 teams. One team played the human forces. The other team played the Krath. They would use holographic displays and computer systems to simulate battles in space and on the ground. The winning team was usually the one with the best physical performers. the ones who could make quick decisions under pressure. But when Elena was on a team, her team always won. Always. Even when she was on the smaller team. Even when she was on the team with the worst performers. Even when the other team was led by Marcus Cole and his group of elite fighters. At first, people thought it was luck. Then they thought it was coincidence. Then they started to wonder. Elena did not command from the front like the others. She did not shout orders or pound the table or try to inspire with speeches. She sat quietly in the corner, watching the holographic displays. And she would speak in a calm, soft voice. Move the third squad to Sector 7. The enemy will attack Sector 4 in 6 minutes, but it is a feint. Their real target is the supply depot in Sector 9. We should position our heavy weapons there now. And she was always right, every single time. The other recruits began to pay attention. Some of them started asking for her advice before exercises. Some of them started defending her when Marcus and his friends made their usual insults. Some of them started to believe that maybe, just maybe, she was something special. General Chen was watching too. From her office high above the training grounds, she reviewed every tactical exercise, every decision Elena made, every pattern she identified. And what she saw made her both excited and afraid. Excited because she had never seen a tactical mind like this before. Elena did not think like a normal soldier. She did not follow the standard strategies taught in the academies. Instead, she seemed to think like the enemy. She anticipated their moves not because she guessed correctly, but because she understood them. She knew how they thought. She knew what they wanted. She knew what they feared. Afraid because the Krath were coming. Intelligence reports indicated that a massive fleet was being assembled at the edge of their territory. The largest fleet ever recorded. Something big was going to happen, and it was going to happen soon. And General Chen knew that when it did, all the strength and muscle in the galaxy might not be enough to save them. 3 months into training, the first real alarm sounded. It came in the middle of the night. A shrieking siren that tore through the barracks and woke everyone from their exhausted sleep. Red lights flashed. Voices shouted through the speakers. All personnel to battle stations. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. Enemy contact detected in Sector 4. The recruits scrambled out of their beds, grabbing weapons and armor and running toward their assigned positions. Elena was among them, her heart pounding in her chest. She had studied the Krath her whole life. She had watched videos of their attacks. She had run simulations thousands of times, but she had never actually faced them. None of them had. The battle was brief but terrifying. A small Krath scouting force had probed the station's defenses, testing for weaknesses. The station's weapons drove them back, destroying 3 enemy ships before the rest retreated into the darkness. No humans were killed. But everyone knew what it meant. The Krath were close. They were watching. They were preparing. General Chen called a meeting of all senior officers and top recruits. Elena was included, much to the annoyance of Marcus and several others. They are testing us, the general said, pointing to a holographic map of the sector. Small probes, reconnaissance missions. They are gathering information. This is consistent with their behavior before major offensives. How long do we have? Asked one of the senior commanders. Unknown. Could be days. Could be weeks. But it will happen. And when it does, we need to be ready. General, Elena said, her voice quiet but steady. All eyes turned to her. She was the youngest person in the room, the smallest, the least experienced. And yet, she had spoken up. Yes, Vasquez, General Chen said. Her tone was neutral, neither encouraging nor discouraging. The probe was unusual, Elena said. Krath scouting missions typically use between 5 and 8 ships. They send more when they are genuinely gathering information, fewer when they are testing response times and weapon capabilities. This one used exactly 3. What is your point? 3 is a symbolic number for the Krath. It represents challenge. Honor combat. When they send 3 ships, they are not gathering information. They are issuing an invitation. The room was silent. Everyone was staring at Elena. An invitation for what? General Chen asked. To fight. Not a full battle. A test. They want to see who we are, who leads us. They want to judge our strength before they commit their full force. And how do you know this, Vasquez? Elena hesitated for just a moment. My grandmother told me. In her video. She said the Krath sent 3 ships before the attack on Colony 7. She said it was their way of saying, "We are coming. Show us what you are made of." General Chen was quiet for a long time. Everyone in the room held their breath. "If you are right," the general said slowly, "then we have an opportunity. A chance to show them our strength before the real battle begins." "Yes, General. But we must be careful. The Krath respect strength, but they also respect cleverness. If we simply throw our biggest forces at them, they will know we have nothing else. They will see us as animals, not warriors. And they will have no reason to fear us." "What do you suggest?" Elena walked to the holographic display. All eyes followed her. She touched a few controls, and the image changed to show a detailed map of the space around the station. "We give them something unexpected," she said. "Something that makes them question everything they think they know about humans." And she began to explain her plan. The senior officers listened. Some of them shook their heads. Some of them laughed quietly. Some of them looked at General Chen as if waiting for her to shut this nonsense down. But General Chen did not shut it down. She listened. And when Elena finished, the general was smiling. "You are either a genius or completely insane, Vasquez. I have been called both, General. Prepare the forces. We do it her way." Marcus Cole stepped forward, his face red with anger. "General, with all respect, you cannot be serious. She is just a recruit. She has never been in real combat. And you want to bet our lives on her theories?" General Chen turned to face him. Her expression was cold and hard. "Cole, I have been fighting the Krath for 30 years. I have lost more friends than I can count. I have tried every strategy in the book, and nothing has worked. We keep losing. We keep dying. And the Krath keep getting stronger." She looked at Elena. "Maybe it is time to try something different. Maybe it is time to listen to someone who thinks like they do." The room was silent. Marcus had nothing to say. "Everyone has their orders," General Chen announced. "We move at dawn." Dismissed. As the officers filed out of the room, Elena felt a hand on her shoulder. She turned to find Lieutenant Commander Park standing behind her. "You realize what you have done," he said quietly. "If this works, you will be a hero. If it fails, you will be blamed for every death." "I know," Elena said. "And you are willing to take that risk?" Elena looked at him with those dark, calm eyes. "My grandmother took notes while she was dying," she said. "She watched her family being killed, and she still tried to help. She gave everything she had so that someday, someone might understand the enemy well enough to defeat them. I am not willing to take that risk. I am required to take it. For her, for everyone we have lost, for everyone we might still save." Park nodded slowly. "Good luck, Vasquez. I hope you are right." "So do I," Elena said. "So do I." The next morning, the human forces deployed according to Elena's plan. It was unlike anything they had ever done before. Instead of hiding behind the station's defenses, they moved forward, toward the edge of Krath territory. Instead of using their largest ships and most powerful weapons, they sent a small, carefully selected force. And leading that force, against every protocol and tradition in the Galactic Defense Force, was Elena Vasquez. She stood on the bridge of a small cruiser, surrounded by a dozen soldiers who had volunteered to follow her. Most of them were people she had trained with, people who had seen her tactical genius in the exercises, people who believed in her even when no one else did. Marcus Cole was not among them. He had refused to participate in what he called the suicide mission. He stayed behind on the station with the rest of the main force, convinced that Elena was leading good soldiers to their deaths. The small fleet moved through space in formation, headed toward the area where the Krath scouts had been spotted. Elena stood perfectly still at the center of the bridge, her eyes fixed on the view screen. "There," she said suddenly, pointing to a cluster of stars in the distance. "They are waiting there, behind the second asteroid." The sensors operator frowned. "Ma'am, I am not detecting anything on sensors." "You will not," Elena said. "The Krath have technology that makes their ships invisible to our sensors, but I know they are there." "How do you know?" Elena did not answer. She just kept watching the view screen. 10 minutes later, the sensors suddenly came alive with warning signals. 3 Krath ships appeared out of nowhere, exactly where Elena had said they would be. They were small, fast attack vessels, their dark hulls covered in the strange organic patterns that made Krath technology so alien and terrifying. They are powering weapons, someone shouted. No, Elena said calmly. They are not. Watch. The 3 Krath ships held their position. They did not fire. They did not advance. They just waited, as if expecting something. They want to see what we do, Elena explained. This is the test. If we attack, they will see us as aggressive but predictable. If we flee, they will see us as weak. But if we do something they do not expect. She touched a control on her console. The communication system came to life. Open a channel to the Krath ships, audio and visual. Ma'am, we have never been able to communicate with the Krath. They do not respond to our transmissions. They will respond to this one, Elena said. The channel opened. On the view screen, they could see the inside of the lead Krath ship, and for the first time in human history, they saw a Krath commander up close. It was terrifying. The creature was 7 feet tall, with gray-green skin and 4 arms. Its face was dominated by huge black eyes that seemed to absorb all light. Its mouth was filled with rows of sharp teeth, and when it spoke, the sound was like metal scraping against metal. But Elena did not flinch. She stood up straight, looked directly at the creature, and did something that no one expected. She spoke in the Krath language. The words were harsh and strange, clicking sounds mixed with deep growls. No human had ever spoken these words before. No human had ever even tried. But Elena had learned them from her grandmother's video. She had studied them for years, practicing the sounds over and over, until she could produce them perfectly. The Krath commander froze. Its black eyes widened. For a long moment, it said nothing. Then it spoke back. The conversation lasted only a few minutes, but to everyone watching, it felt like hours. Elena spoke with confidence, her voice never wavering. The Krath commander responded with what seemed like growing respect. When the transmission ended, Elena turned to face her crew. They will not attack. Not today. They are going to report back to their leaders. They are going to tell them something that will change everything. What? Asked the sensor operator, his voice barely a whisper. Elena looked at the retreating Krath ships on the view screen. They are going to tell them that humans are not just animals to be slaughtered. They are going to tell them that we have someone who understands them. Someone who can think like them. Someone they should fear. She paused. And for the first time since the mission began, she allowed herself a small smile. They are going to tell them about me. The news of what happened spread through the station like wildfire. People who had mocked Elena just days ago were now whispering her name with something like awe. The general herself came down to the landing bay to greet the returning ships. Vasquez, General Chen said. What exactly did you say to them? I challenged them, General. In their language, according to their customs, I told them that humanity was not prey. I told them that we had warriors who could match any of their greatest fighters. And I told them that if they wanted to destroy us, they would have to earn it. And they believed you? They believed that I believed it, Elena said. And for the Krath, that is enough. For now. General Chen nodded slowly. This is just the beginning, is it not? Yes, General, the real battle is still coming. But now, for the first time in this war, the Krath are uncertain. They do not know what to expect from us. And uncertainty is a weapon we have never had before. As Elena walked through the station toward her quarters, she passed by Marcus Cole and his group of followers. They were standing in a corridor, blocking her path. That was a nice trick, Marcus said, learning a few words in their language, making a big show. But it does not mean anything. When the real battle comes, your tricks will not save you. Elena stopped walking. She looked at Marcus with those calm, dark eyes. You are right, she said quietly. Tricks alone will not save us. Strategy alone will not save us. We will need strength and courage and sacrifice. We will need people like you, Marcus Cole. People who can fight and bleed and die for humanity. She stepped closer to him. So close that he could have reached out and grabbed her. But we will also need people who can think. People who can understand the enemy. People who can find the weaknesses that brute force cannot discover. That is what I offer. Not instead of what you offer. In addition to it, Marcus said nothing. His face was red, but for once, he did not have an insult ready. The Krath are coming, Elena continued. Thousands of ships, millions of warriors. They have destroyed colony after colony, fleet after fleet. And you think that more muscle and bigger guns are going to be enough to stop them? She shook her head. I am not your enemy, Marcus. I am not trying to take your place or make you look weak. I am trying to help us survive. All of us. And if you cannot see that, then you are not the warrior you think you are. She walked past him, and this time, he did not try to stop her. That night, alone in her quarters, Elena watched her grandmother's video again. The old woman's face filled the small screen, tears streaming down her cheeks as she described the horror she was witnessing. They are not mindless monsters, her grandmother said. They have reasons for what they do. They have fears and hopes and beliefs. If we want to defeat them, we must understand them, not hate them. Understand them. Elena touched the screen gently. I understand, grandmother, she whispered. I am trying. I will keep trying. Until the very end. Outside her window, the stars burned cold and bright. Somewhere in that darkness, the Krath were gathering. The greatest battle in human history was coming, and Elena Vasquez, the recruit no one believed in, was going to be at the center of it. 2 weeks passed after Elena's encounter with the Krath scouts. The station was transformed into a hive of constant activity. Ships were repaired and upgraded. Weapons were checked and rechecked. Soldiers trained harder than ever before, knowing that the enemy could arrive at any moment. Elena spent most of her time in the tactical center, a massive room filled with holographic displays and communication equipment. She studied every piece of information available about the Krath, adding to the knowledge she had gathered over her lifetime. She created detailed maps of their territory. She analyzed their past battles, looking for patterns that others had missed. She built models of their leadership structure, trying to understand how they made decisions. General Chen visited her often, asking questions and listening carefully to her answers. The general had become something rare in the military, a senior officer who was willing to learn from someone half her age and a fraction of her rank. You spend more time with those displays than you do sleeping, General Chen said one evening, standing behind Elena in the tactical center. Sleep is inefficient, Elena replied without looking away from the holographic map in front of her. The Krath do not sleep the way we do. Their brains operate differently. They can rest one section while the other sections remain active. This gives them a significant advantage in extended combat operations. Is that why they attacked Colony 7 at night? Because they knew the defenders would be tired? Elena nodded. Partly, but also because darkness has symbolic meaning for them. They believe that true warriors fight without relying on light. The darkness levels the battlefield, they say. It forces everyone to use their other senses, their instincts, their training. How do you know all this? Elena finally turned to face the general. My grandmother included everything she could observe in her final message. She watched them for hours before the end. She listened to them communicate. She noted how they moved, how they organized themselves, how they treated their fallen warriors. She gave me a gift that no intelligence service could ever provide. She gave me truth observed under impossible conditions. General Chen was quiet for a moment. Your grandmother was a remarkable woman. She was a scientist. Observing and recording was her instinct, even when she was dying. She believed that knowledge was more valuable than survival, that understanding the enemy was more important than fearing them. Do you believe that? Elena turned back to her displays. I believe that we cannot defeat an enemy we do not understand. Fear makes us stupid. It makes us reactive instead of strategic. It makes us fight the war the enemy wants us to fight, instead of the war we need to fight. The general nodded slowly. The main fleet will arrive within the week. 1,200 ships, the largest force humanity has ever assembled. Every colony, every military installation, every available resource has been committed to this battle. I know, Elena said. And it will not be enough. What do you mean? Elena touched a control, and the holographic map changed. Instead of showing just the space around Station Omega 7, it now displayed a vast region of Krath territory. Red dots appeared across the map, hundreds of them. These are confirmed Krath fleet positions, Elena explained. Based on intercepted communications and sensor data from our remote probes, they have been gathering ships from across their empire for months. My estimate is that they will attack with at least 4,000 vessels. Possibly more. General Chen's face went pale. 4,000? That's more than 3 times our force. Yes. And their ships are individually superior to ours in several key areas. Their weapons have longer range. Their shields are more efficient. Their crews are larger and better trained for the kind of close combat that Krath prefer. Then why are you still here? The general asked. If you believe we are going to lose, why not leave? Find somewhere safe to hide. Elena looked at her with surprise. Hide? General? I do not think we are going to lose. But you just said their force is more than 3 times ours. I said our fleet will not be enough. I did not say we would lose. Numbers matter, General. But they are not everything. The Krath have a weakness, a fundamental flaw in how they think about war. And if we exploit it correctly, we can win. What weakness? Elena smiled slightly. Honor. The Krath believe that warfare is sacred. It is how they prove their worth, both as individuals and as a species. They have strict rules about how battles should be conducted, rules that we do not follow because we do not know them. Go on. For example, the Krath consider it shameful to attack an enemy who is clearly defeated. Once a battle is decided, they expect the loser to surrender or flee. They will not pursue and slaughter a retreating enemy. They consider that dishonorable. So if we pretend to retreat, they will let us go. They will not chase us. They will assume that we are beaten and that we will not return. This gives us an opportunity to regroup, resupply, and strike again when they are not expecting it. General Chen frowned. But that only works once. Once they realize we are using their honor against them, they will adapt. Exactly. Which is why timing is everything. We cannot use this tactic too early, or they will learn before the critical moment. We cannot use it too late, or we will already be destroyed. We need to wait until they commit their full force, until they believe victory is certain, and then we surprise them. This is a dangerous game, Vasquez. War is always dangerous, General. But playing by the enemy's rules is more dangerous. We need to make our own rules. We need to fight the war they do not expect. Over the following days, Elena worked closely with the fleet commanders to develop a comprehensive battle plan. It was unlike anything the Galactic Defense Force had ever attempted. Instead of forming a single defensive line, the human fleet would be divided into multiple smaller groups, each with specific objectives and predefined responses to different Krath actions. The key to the plan was flexibility. Traditional military doctrine emphasized command and control, with all decisions flowing from senior officers. But Elena argued that this approach was too slow against the Krath. Their commanders think faster than ours, she explained during a strategy meeting. They make decisions in seconds that would take us minutes to debate. If we try to fight them using our normal command structure, they will always be one step ahead. What do you suggest? Asked Admiral Thomas Reeves, the commander of the main fleet. He was an older man with gray hair and a skeptical expression. He had been fighting the Krath for decades and had lost more battles than he had won. We decentralize decision-making, Elena said. We give each group commander a set of guidelines, a framework for making decisions. Then we trust them to act within that framework, without waiting for orders from above. That's chaos, Admiral Reeves said. You're describing an uncontrolled mob, not a military force. With respect, Admiral, the Krath would agree with you. They also believe in strict hierarchy and centralized command. That is why this approach will confuse them. They will not understand why our ships are acting independently. They will not be able to predict our movements because there is no single mind for them to anticipate. And how do we coordinate if everyone is acting independently? Elena touched a control, and a new display appeared. It showed a complex diagram of interconnected circles and lines. We use patterns, she said. Pre-agreed signals that tell each group what the others are doing without requiring direct communication. A certain formation means attack. A certain movement means retreat. A certain color of running lights means switch to Plan B. The commanders learn these patterns in advance, and they respond accordingly. This is too complicated, Admiral Reeves said. Our captains are fighters, not dancers. They cannot memorize hundreds of signals while enemy fire is exploding around them. They do not need to memorize hundreds. They need to memorize 12. 12 basic patterns that combine in different ways to create more complex instructions. It is like a language with only 12 words, simple enough to learn quickly, flexible enough to communicate anything we need. General Chen stepped forward. I want to try it. A simulation, tomorrow, with the fleet commanders. We'll see if it works. Admiral Reeves opened his mouth to argue, but the look on General Chen's face stopped him. This was not a suggestion. It was an order. The simulation the next day was a disaster. The fleet commanders, trained for years in traditional tactics, struggled to adapt to Elena's new approach. Ships collided. Groups attacked the wrong targets. Signals were misinterpreted. The simulated Krath fleet destroyed the human force in less than 2 hours. Marcus Cole was watching from the observation deck, and he made sure everyone could hear his laughter. "This is what happens when you let a child play at being a general," he said loudly. "We are all going to die because of her stupid ideas." Elena stood in the middle of the simulation room, surrounded by angry commanders and apologetic technicians. Her face was calm, but inside, she felt the weight of failure pressing down on her. General Chen approached her. "That did not go well." "No," Elena admitted. "It did not. I underestimated how difficult it would be for experienced officers to change their thinking. So what do we do?" Elena was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then she said, "We do it again, and again, and again, until they get it right. We have 1 week before the Krath arrive. That is enough time if we do not waste any of it. And if they cannot learn, then we die," Elena said simply. "But I do not believe that will happen. These are intelligent, capable people. They have fought the Krath before, and survived. They can learn this. They just need someone to show them how." General Chen nodded slowly. "Very well. We continue the simulations. But Vasquez, if this does not work..." "I know, General. If this does not work, the blame falls on me." The simulations continued, day and night. Elena worked with each commander individually, explaining the logic behind her approach, helping them understand not just what to do but why. She was patient and encouraging, never criticizing mistakes, always finding something positive to build on. Slowly, the fleet began to improve. The 12 patterns became familiar. The commanders started to anticipate each other's movements. The simulated battles became closer, then competitive, then finally, victories. On the 5th day, the human fleet won a simulation against a Krath force twice its size. The observation deck was silent. Even Marcus Cole had nothing to say. Elena stood before the assembly of commanders, her face tired but triumphant. "You see now," she said, "the Krath are not invincible. They have weaknesses, they have blind spots. And when we work together, when we trust each other, when we think instead of just fighting, we can beat them." Admiral Reeves stepped forward. He had been the most skeptical of Elena's approach, the most resistant to change, but now his expression was different. There was something like respect in his eyes. "I owe you an apology, Vasquez. I thought you were a foolish child playing with theories. I was wrong. You were not wrong to be skeptical, Admiral. New ideas should be questioned, challenged, tested. That is how we separate good ideas from bad ones. You did exactly what a good officer should do." The Admiral nodded. "So what happens now? Now we prepare for the real thing. The simulations have taught us the basics, but real combat is different. There will be chaos, and fear, and death. There will be moments when the patterns break down and each commander must rely on their own judgment. We cannot simulate that. We can only face it when it comes. And when it comes?" Elena looked at the holographic display showing the empty space around Station Omega 7. "When it comes, we show them what humanity is made of. We show them that we are not just animals to be hunted. We are warriors. We are thinkers. We are survivors. And we will not go quietly into the darkness." The 7th day arrived with alarms screaming throughout the station. The Krath fleet had been detected, emerging from hyperspace at the edge of the sector. The sensors counted them as they appeared. 100 ships, then 500, then 1,000, then more. The final count was 4,372 vessels. Just as Elena had predicted, the human fleet assembled around Station Omega 7. 1,200 ships, crewed by men and women who had trained for this moment their entire lives. Many of them would not survive the day. All of them knew it. Elena stood on the command deck of the station, surrounded by screens showing the deployment of both fleets. General Chen was beside her, along with Admiral Reeves and the other senior commanders. They were all looking at her, waiting for her guidance. "They are forming their standard attack pattern," Elena said, studying the enemy deployment. 7 waves, each larger than the last. They will send the first wave to test our defenses, then commit more forces as they learn our weaknesses. What do we do? General Chen asked. We let them win the first exchange. Everyone in the room stared at her. Explain. Admiral Reeves said, his voice tight. If we fight the first wave with full strength, we will destroy them. But we will also reveal our new tactics. The Krath commanders will observe and adapt. By the time their main force engages, they will be ready for us. So we pretend to be weak. We pretend to be what they expect us to be. Traditional, predictable, honorable but limited. We let them think that nothing has changed. Then, when they commit their full force, we show them what we can really do. General Chen took a deep breath. This means accepting casualties in the first exchange. Casualties we could prevent. Yes, I will not pretend otherwise. Good people will die to maintain the deception. But if we reveal ourselves too early, many more will die later. This is the terrible mathematics of war. The general was silent for a long moment. Then she nodded. We do it your way, Vasquez. God help us all. The first wave of Krath ships advanced toward the human fleet. There were 300 of them, fast attack vessels similar to the ones Elena had encountered during the scouting mission. They moved in precise formation, their weapons charging with an ominous glow. The human fleet responded exactly as the Krath expected. The ships formed a defensive line, concentrating fire on individual enemy vessels. It was the standard doctrine, the same approach humans had used in every previous battle, and it was deliberately ineffective. Elena watched as human ships were damaged and destroyed, as explosions lit up the darkness of space, as good soldiers died following her plan. She kept her face expressionless, but inside, she felt each death like a physical blow. Casualties at 12%, someone reported. Enemy losses at 8%. Hold formation, Elena said. Continue standard engagement. 15% casualties, enemy at 10%. Hold. 18%. We are losing, Commander. Elena's hands were clenched into fists at her sides. Hold. The first wave withdrew, leaving behind the wreckage of both human and Krath ships. The Krath had taken losses, but they had clearly won the exchange. On the enemy command ships, Elena knew. The Krath commanders were congratulating themselves. The humans were fighting exactly as expected. Victory was assured. The second wave began to form. This one was larger, over 500 ships. They would hit harder, probe deeper, push the human defenses to the breaking point. Second wave incoming, Admiral Reeves reported. Same formation as the first. They are confident. Good, Elena said. Let them be confident. Confidence makes people careless. The second exchange was similar to the first. The human fleet fought with traditional tactics, taking casualties while inflicting fewer on the enemy. By the end, the total human losses were at 31%. Nearly 400 ships destroyed. Marcus Cole's voice came over the communication system from his position with the reserve fleet. This is madness. We are being slaughtered. Let me attack. Negative, Elena replied calmly. Hold your position, Cole. The time will come. What time? When we are all dead. Trust me. Trust you? You have gotten hundreds of our people killed with your clever games. You are no warrior. You are a murderer. General Chen cut the communication. He is not entirely wrong, Vasquez. Our forces are demoralized. They think we are losing. We are losing, for now. But look at the enemy formation. She pointed to the holographic display. The Krath fleet was reorganizing for a third wave, but this time, something was different. More ships were joining the attack force. Many more. They are committing their reserves, Elena said. They see our weakness, and they want to finish us quickly. They are abandoning their cautious approach. Is that good? It is exactly what we need. When the third wave comes, it will be their largest force yet. But it will also be disorganized. They are moving faster than their formation can handle. There will be gaps, weaknesses, opportunities. General Chen studied the enemy deployment. After a moment, her eyes widened. I see it. Their left flank. They have extended too far. Yes, when they attack, that flank will be exposed. If we hit it hard enough, we can roll up their entire formation. But we do not have enough ships for a flanking attack. We have barely enough to defend ourselves. Elena smiled slightly. We have Marcus Cole. The third wave launched. Over 2,000 Krath ships advanced toward the battered human fleet, their weapons firing continuously. The darkness of space was lit up with weapons fire, a deadly light show that spelled doom for anyone caught in its path. The human fleet fell back, exactly as the Krath expected. Ships retreated toward the station, seeking shelter behind its defensive shields. It looked like a rout, like the final collapse of human resistance, but it was all part of Elena's plan. As the Krath fleet pressed forward, their left flank stretched thin. The commanders were so focused on the retreating human ships that they did not notice the threat emerging from behind a nearby asteroid field. Marcus Cole led the reserve fleet into battle. 300 fresh ships, crewed by soldiers who had been waiting and watching and burning with the desire to fight. They hit the Krath flank like a hammer, their weapons blazing, their formation tight and disciplined. The impact was devastating. Krath ships exploded by the dozens as Cole's fleet tore through their formation. The enemy commanders tried to respond, but they were too slow. Their careful plans had not anticipated this. All units, Pattern 7, Elena commanded. Execute now. The retreating human fleet suddenly stopped retreating. Ships that had been fleeing moments before now turned and accelerated toward the enemy. The 12 patterns that Elena had taught them came into play, coordinating movements across the entire battlefield without the need for direct communication. The Krath were caught in a crossfire, Cole's fresh fleet attacking from one side, the main fleet attacking from the other. Their formation, which had seemed so overwhelming moments before, began to crumble. Enemy casualties at 20%, someone reported. 25, 30. Press the attack, Elena ordered. Do not let them reform. The battle raged for hours. The advantage shifted back and forth as the Krath commanders adapted to the new human tactics. They were not fools, and they learned quickly. But Elena had anticipated this. Every time the enemy adjusted, she had a counter ready. Pattern 3 on the right flank. Pattern 11 for the center group. Cole, pull back and execute Pattern 6. The commands came fast and sure, and the fleet responded. It was like watching a dance. A deadly ballet of warships moving in perfect harmony despite the chaos around them. By the end of the 4th hour, the tide had turned decisively. The Krath fleet, which had seemed so invincible at the start, was in retreat. Nearly half their ships were destroyed or damaged beyond combat capability. The survivors were fleeing toward the edge of the sector, pursued by human vessels that showed no mercy. Elena watched them go, her face expressionless but her heart pounding with exhaustion and relief. Should we pursue? Admiral Reeves asked. No, let them go. They will carry the message back to their leaders. They will tell them what happened here. They will tell them about us. And what message is that? Elena turned to face him. Her eyes were bright with something that might have been triumph or might have been sadness. That humanity is not prey. That we can think like they think. That we can fight like they fight. That we are not afraid. The news of the victory spread across human space like wildfire. For years, the Krath had seemed unstoppable. Colony after colony had fallen. Fleet after fleet had been destroyed. People had started to believe that humanity was doomed, that it was only a matter of time before the enemy reached Earth itself. But now there was hope. A single battle had changed everything. The invincible enemy had been beaten. The tide of the war had turned, and at the center of it all was Elena Vasquez, the recruit no one had believed in, the woman who had been mocked and dismissed and underestimated at every turn. General Chen recommended her for the Silver Star, humanity's highest military honor. The recommendation was approved within hours. Elena became the youngest person ever to receive the medal, and the first to receive it, while still technically a recruit, but she did not celebrate. While others cheered and congratulated each other, she returned to the tactical center. There was still work to do. Marcus Cole found her there late that night, studying the same holographic maps she had studied every day for weeks. You were right, he said. His voice was different now. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something that sounded almost like humility. Elena did not look up from her work. About what? About everything. About the battle. About the tactics. About me. Now she did look up. Marcus was standing in the doorway, his uniform dirty and torn from the battle. There was a bandage on his arm where a piece of shrapnel had caught him. He looked exhausted and beaten, but also somehow lighter. as if a weight had been lifted from him. "I was wrong about you," he continued. "I thought strength was the only thing that mattered. I thought the biggest and toughest fighters would always win. But you showed me something different. You showed me that the mind can be a weapon too." "The mind is always a weapon," Elena said quietly. "The question is whether we choose to use it. I want to learn. From you, if you will teach me." Elena studied him for a long moment. This was the man who had tormented her for months, who had called her weak and worthless, who had predicted her death with such certainty, and now he was standing before her, asking for her help. "Why should I?" she asked. "Because we are going to need everyone," Marcus said. "This battle was just the beginning. The Krath will come back. They will come back with more ships and better tactics. They will not make the same mistakes again. You understand that. I understand it now, and I understand that when they come back, we will need both strength and intelligence, muscle and strategy. People like me and people like you, working together." Elena was quiet for a long time. Then she nodded. "Tomorrow, 6 in the morning. Do not be late." Marcus smiled, the first genuine smile she had ever seen from him. "I will not be late. I promise." He turned and walked away, leaving Elena alone with her maps and her plans. She watched him go, thinking about how much had changed in such a short time. Then she turned back to her work. The Krath were not defeated. They were only surprised. And Elena knew better than anyone that surprise was a weapon that could only be used once. The next battle would be harder. The enemy would be prepared. They would have studied what happened and developed counters for her tactics. They would not underestimate humanity again. She needed new ideas, new strategies, new weapons that the Krath had never seen. And somewhere, out in the darkness of space, she knew the enemy was doing exactly the same thing. Preparing, planning, waiting for the chance to strike back. The war was far from over. It had only just begun, but for the first time in a long time, Elena allowed herself to hope. They had won a battle. They had proven that the enemy could be beaten, and that was something worth fighting for. She worked through the night, and when the sun rose over the station's artificial horizon, she was ready to start again. 6 months had passed since the Battle of Station Omega-7. Elena Vasquez was no longer a recruit. She had been promoted to commander, the fastest advancement in the history of the Galactic Defense Force. Her face appeared on news broadcasts across human space. Her strategies were studied in every military academy. Children played games pretending to be her, recreating her famous victory with toy ships and homemade holographic displays. But Elena took no comfort in the fame. She knew what was coming. The intelligence reports were clear. The Krath were gathering again, building a fleet that would make their previous invasion look like a scouting mission. Every ship they had, every warrior they could muster, every weapon they could produce was being prepared for a single purpose: the complete destruction of humanity. The headquarters of the human defense effort had moved to Earth itself. The High Command believed that if the Krath were going to make their final push, they would target the home world. It was both strategically important and symbolically significant. If Earth fell, human morale would collapse. The scattered colonies would surrender or flee. The war would be over. Elena spent most of her time in the war room, a massive underground facility beneath the Rocky Mountains. It was filled with the most advanced technology humanity possessed, including direct links to every military installation across human space. From here, she could coordinate the defense of an entire civilization. But she was not alone. Marcus Cole had kept his promise. He had trained with her every morning, learning not just tactics but a new way of thinking about war. The arrogant bully from the transport ship was gone, replaced by a thoughtful soldier who combined physical power with strategic intelligence. Elena had come to rely on him as her second-in-command. "The latest reports came in," Marcus said, entering the war room with a tablet in his hand. "The Krath fleet has reached critical mass. Over 8,000 ships confirmed, with more joining every day." 8,000, Elena repeated. "We have barely 4,000, including the reserve forces and the colonial defense fleets. 2-to-1 odds. Better than the last battle." "The last battle? They were overconfident and disorganized. This time will be different. They have studied our tactics. They know what to expect, and they will have new strategies of their own." Marcus sat down across from her. In the months of working together, they had developed an easy partnership. He no longer questioned her authority or challenged her decisions. She no longer viewed him as an obstacle to overcome. They were teammates now, united by a common purpose. "So what do we do?" he asked. Elena was quiet for a long moment, staring at the holographic map that showed the disposition of forces across the sector. Red dots for the Krath, blue dots for humanity, and vast stretches of empty black in between. "We changed the game," she finally said. "Again." "How? Do you remember what I told you about Krath honor? How they will not pursue a retreating enemy?" "Yes, but we already used that trick. They will not fall for it again." "True, but their honor has other aspects, other rules. One of them is particularly interesting." She touched a control, and a new image appeared on the display. It showed a Krath warrior, tall and imposing, with ceremonial markings on its gray-green skin. This is a Krath war leader. Not a commander or a general, but something more. In their culture, a war leader represents the entire species. They are chosen by their highest council to embody Krath honor in battle. When a war leader speaks, they speak for all Krath everywhere. I have heard of them. They are rare. There are only a few in their entire civilization. Exactly. And according to Krath tradition, a war leader cannot refuse a direct challenge from an enemy leader. If challenged, they must respond. To refuse would be the ultimate dishonor, not just for them, but for their entire species. Marcus's eyes widened as he understood. "You want to challenge their war leader to single combat?" "No. I want to challenge their entire leadership to a contest. A test of wits and strategy. Just the two of us against their best commanders. If we win, they withdraw. If we lose, we surrender." "That is insane." "They would never agree. They have to agree. Their honor demands it. A direct challenge from a leader of equal standing cannot be refused. But you are not a leader of equal standing. You are a commander. Important, yes, but not the head of human military forces." Elena smiled slightly. "That is about to change." The emergency session of the Human Defense Council was called the next day. All the most powerful military and political leaders of human civilization gathered, either in person or via holographic link. They sat around a long table, watching Elena with expressions that ranged from curiosity to skepticism. General Chen spoke first. She had been promoted to Marshal after the victory at Omega-7, making her the highest-ranking military officer in human history. "Commander Vasquez has requested this meeting to present a proposal. I have reviewed it, and I believe it deserves serious consideration. Commander, the floor is yours." Elena stood and walked to the holographic display at the center of the room. "Distinguished leaders, you all know the situation. The Krath are coming with the largest fleet ever assembled. Our conventional forces cannot defeat them in a straight fight. We would be outnumbered, outgunned, and overwhelmed." "Then what do you propose?" asked Admiral Tanaka, the commander of the Earth Defense Fleet. "Surrender? No. I propose we avoid the fight entirely." Murmurs rippled through the room. Elena waited for them to quiet before continuing. "The Krath have traditions that govern their warfare. One of these traditions is the practice of champion combat. When two enemies are evenly matched, they can choose to settle their conflict through a contest of champions instead of a full battle. The winner takes all, and the loser withdraws." "And you believe the Krath would agree to this?" asked President Morrison, the elected leader of the Earth government. "I believe they have no choice. Their war leader is a figure named Krathvex, one of the most respected warriors in their civilization. By their own laws, Krathvex cannot refuse a direct challenge from an equivalent human leader. To do so would shame not just him, but every Krath who has ever lived or will ever live." "What kind of contest are you proposing?" "A battle of tactics. Two fleets, equal in size and composition, controlled by their best commanders against ours. The battle would take place in a remote star system, away from any populated worlds. Both sides would observe the rules of engagement agreed upon in advance. The side that destroys the enemy fleet wins. And if we lose?" Elena's expression did not change. "If we lose, we surrender Earth and all our major colonies." The Krath would have won the war. The room exploded in protest. Voices shouted over each other. Fists pounded on tables. Admiral Tanaka stood up so violently that his chair fell over. "This is madness. You are proposing to bet the future of humanity on a single battle? On your ability to outsmart alien commanders in a game? I am proposing to give humanity a chance, Elena said, her voice cutting through the noise. Our current path leads to certain destruction. We cannot win a conventional war against 8,000 ships. We simply do not have the resources. But in a smaller engagement, with equal forces, our chances are much better. Why? What makes you think you can beat their best commanders? Elena paused, considering her words carefully. Because I have spent my entire life studying the Krath. I know how they think. I know their strengths and their weaknesses. I know the patterns they follow and the mistakes they are likely to make. In a full-scale war, that knowledge is not enough. There are too many variables, too many factors outside my control. But in a contained battle, with limited forces and clear rules, I can use everything I have learned to maximum effect. Marshal Chen stood up. I have seen Commander Vasquez in action. I have seen her turn impossible situations into victories. If anyone can win this contest, it is her. And what if she loses? Admiral Tanaka demanded. What happens to all of us? If she loses, we are no worse off than we are now, President Morrison said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. Think about it. If we fight the conventional war, we will almost certainly lose. If we accept Commander Vasquez's proposal and she wins, we save everyone. If she loses, we are in the same position we would have been anyway. The only difference is that we would have tried something bold instead of waiting to be slaughtered. The room was silent as the leaders considered this. Finally, Admiral Tanaka sat back down. Fine. Let us say we agree to this proposal. There is still the question of authority. The Krath will not accept a challenge from a commander. They will want someone of equivalent rank to their war leader. I know, Elena said, which is why I am requesting a field promotion. To what rank? Supreme Commander of Human Forces, temporary of course, just for the duration of the contest. More murmurs, but this time they were thoughtful, rather than angry. The title was unprecedented. No single human had ever held complete military authority over all of human civilization. This is a significant request, President Morrison said. You are asking for more power than anyone in history. I am asking for the power to save us all, Elena replied. Nothing more, nothing less. And I am asking for it to be limited in scope and duration. Once the contest is over, regardless of the outcome, the title would be dissolved and normal authority restored. The vote took less than 5 minutes. The proposal passed with a narrow majority. Elena Vasquez, the recruit who had been mocked and doubted, became the first Supreme Commander of Human Forces. The challenge was transmitted to the Krath fleet 2 days later. It was broadcast on all frequencies, in both human and Krath languages, so that everyone in the galaxy could hear it. I am Elena Vasquez, Supreme Commander of Human Forces. I speak for all humanity when I issue this challenge to Krath Vex, war leader of the Krath Confederation. I challenge you to a contest of champions, to be conducted according to the ancient traditions of your people. 2 fleets, equal in size and strength, meeting in honorable combat to decide the fate of both our civilizations. Accept this challenge, or be known forever as a coward who feared a single human female. The response came 12 hours later. Krath Vex appeared on screens across human space, his alien face filling the display. His voice was the familiar screech of metal on metal, but there was something different in his tone, something that sounded almost like respect. I am Krath Vex, war leader of the Krath Confederation. I speak for all Krath when I accept your challenge, Elena Vasquez. You have learned our language. You have learned our customs. You have earned the right to face us as equals. The contest will take place in the neutral system designated K-47. Each side will bring 500 ships. The battle will continue until one fleet is destroyed or surrenders. May honor guide our weapons. The transmission ended, and Elena allowed herself a moment of relief. The trap was set. Now she just had to survive it. The journey to System K-47 took 3 weeks. Elena used every minute to prepare. She selected her 500 ships personally, choosing vessels with experienced crews and reliable systems. She drilled them relentlessly in the tactics she had developed, pushing them until the patterns became second nature. Marcus Cole commanded the flagship, a heavy cruiser named the Redemption. He had grown into his role as Elena's second, learning to anticipate her strategies, and execute them flawlessly. The crew respected him, and more importantly, they trusted him. The Krath fleet will arrive in 6 hours, Marcus reported as they entered the K-47 system. They are exactly on schedule? They are always on schedule, Elena said. Punctuality is a matter of honor for them. How do you feel? Elena considered the question. Prepared. Ready. A little afraid. Afraid? You? Anyone who goes into battle without fear is either a fool or a liar. Fear keeps us sharp. It reminds us that the stakes are real, that the consequences of failure are permanent. What are you afraid of, specifically? Elena looked at him. I am afraid that I have overestimated myself, that I have studied the Krath my entire life and still do not truly understand them, that there is some piece of the puzzle I am missing, some aspect of their thinking that will surprise me at the critical moment, and if there is, then I will adapt. That is what humans do best. We face the unexpected, and we find a way to survive. The Krath fleet arrived exactly on time, 500 ships emerging from hyperspace in perfect formation. They were beautiful in a terrifying way, their dark hulls gleaming with organic patterns that seemed to pulse with inner light. At the center of the formation was the Krath flagship, a massive vessel 3 times the size of any human ship, covered in ceremonial markings that identified it as the command ship of a war leader. They are opening communications, someone reported. Krathvex appeared on the main screen. Behind him, Elena could see the interior of his ship, filled with Krath warriors watching the exchange with their huge black eyes. Supreme Commander Vasquez, Krathvex said, "We meet at last. I have studied your tactics. I have analyzed your victories. You are unlike any human we have encountered. Thank you, war leader. I have studied you as well. Your reputation for strategic brilliance is well deserved. Flattery serves no purpose here. We both know that one of us will not survive this day. One of our fleets will not survive. Whether the commanders survive depends on how the battle goes." Krathvex made a sound that might have been laughter. "You are correct. Very well. Let us begin. The rules are simple. No weapons of mass destruction. No attacks on civilian vessels or escape pods. The battle continues until one fleet is completely destroyed, or its commander signals surrender. Do you agree to these terms? I agree. Then may the better commander win." The transmission ended, and the Krath fleet began to move into attack formation. Elena took a deep breath. All ships, pattern 1. Execute on my mark. The battle began with a clash that shook the stars. 500 ships on each side opened fire simultaneously, filling space with weapons fire so dense it looked like solid light. Explosions bloomed in the darkness as ships on both sides took damage. But this was not the chaotic free-for-all of a normal battle. Both commanders were masters of their craft, moving their forces with precision and purpose. Every attack was answered with a counter. Every weakness was protected. Every opportunity was exploited. Enemy formation is tightening, Marcus reported. They are trying to concentrate fire on our center. Pattern 6, Elena ordered. Open the center, draw them in. The human fleet responded instantly, ships moving in perfect coordination. The center of the formation pulled back, creating a gap that looked like weakness, but was actually a trap. The Krath pressed forward, sensing opportunity. Pattern 11, close the trap. The flanks of the human fleet curved inward, catching the advancing Krath ships in a devastating crossfire. A dozen enemy vessels exploded in seconds, their debris spinning off into the void. But Krathvex was not fooled for long. He pulled his ships back, reformed his lines, and launched a new attack from a different angle. Elena countered with Pattern 3, then Pattern 7, then a combination she had never used before, invented on the spot to meet a situation she had not anticipated. Hours passed. Ships died on both sides. The space between the fleets became a graveyard of burning wreckage and floating debris. Neither side could gain a decisive advantage. Casualties at 32%, Marcus reported. Enemy at 29%. We are losing, barely. I know, Elena said. Her voice was calm, but her hands were trembling with exhaustion. She had been giving orders for 7 straight hours, processing information faster than she had ever thought possible. He is good, better than I expected. What do we do? Elena closed her eyes, thinking. The standard patterns were not working. Krathvex had studied them, anticipated them, prepared counters for all of them. She needed something new, something he had never seen. Then she remembered something. A detail from her grandmother's video. A tiny piece of information she had never thought to use before. Open a channel to the enemy flagship. Direct communication. Meet a Krathvex only. What are you going to do? I am going to try something crazy. The communication link opened, and Krathvex appeared on her screen. Even through the display, Elena could see that he was as tired as she was. The battle was wearing on both of them. Have you decided to surrender? He asked. No, I have a proposition. I am listening. Your fleet is fighting defensively. You are reacting to my attacks instead of launching your own. This is not your natural style, war leader. You are a creature of aggression, of forward momentum, but you are holding back. Why? Krathvex was silent for a moment. Then he said, You are perceptive, Commander. I am holding back because I do not understand you. You fight in ways I have never seen. I cannot predict your movements. I fear that if I commit to an aggressive attack, you will use my momentum against me. And if I promise to fight you fairly? To meet your aggression with aggression instead of tricks? Why would you make such a promise? Because I am tired of games. I want this battle to end. And I believe that if we both fight at our full capability, without holding back, the outcome will be clear within the hour. Krathvex's huge black eyes studied her through the screen. You are proposing a final exchange. All or nothing. Yes. Both fleets commit everything. We meet in the center and fight until one side is destroyed. Pure combat. No deception. This is either the bravest thing a human has ever done, or the most foolish. Probably both. Do you accept? Another long pause. Then Krathvex nodded his massive head. I accept. In 1 minute, we attack. May honor guide our weapons. The transmission ended. Marcus was staring at Elena, like she had lost her mind. You just challenged the Krath to a head-on attack? We cannot win that. They are stronger in direct combat. I know, Elena said. That is what he thinks too. Then why? Because I lead. Marcus's confusion deepened. What? Elena turned to face him. And there was something in her eyes that he had never seen before. Something fierce and determined and perhaps a little desperate. I told Krathvex I would fight him fairly, meet aggression with aggression. But I never said I would not use the terrain. She pointed to the holographic display showing the battlefield. In the center, between the two fleets, was a dense field of debris from the destroyed ships. And beyond that, barely visible, was something else. A small asteroid, one of many scattered throughout the system. That asteroid has a high iron content. It is interfering with Krath sensors, creating a blind spot in their detection grid. I noticed it 2 hours ago, and I have been waiting for the right moment to use it. What are you planning? When Krathvex commits to the head-on attack, he will expect me to do the same. Instead, I am going to send half our fleet around that asteroid, through the blind spot. They will emerge behind the Krath formation just as the two fleets meet. A flanking attack, during a head-on charge. That is not just lying, Elena. That is betraying an agreement made in honor. I know. Elena's voice was quiet but firm. And the Krath will never forgive me for it. They will consider me the most dishonorable opponent they have ever faced. My name will become a curse word in their language. Then why do it? Because I would rather be cursed and alive than honored and dead. Because I would rather save humanity through deception than lose it through noble honesty. Because my grandmother watched her family die while the Krath followed their codes of honor. And I will not let her sacrifice be meaningless. Marcus was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. Tell me what you need. Take 150 ships through the asteroid blind spot. Wait until you see the main fleets engage. Then hit them from behind, hard and fast. No mercy. And you? I will lead the head-on attack. I will keep Krathvex focused on me so he does not notice you until it is too late. You are putting yourself in the most dangerous position. I am the Supreme Commander. The dangerous positions are where I belong. Marcus reached out and put his hand on her shoulder. Elena, whatever happens, it has been an honor. The honor has been mine, Marcus. Now go. We do not have much time. The human fleet split in two. Elena watched as Marcus led his ships toward the asteroid, disappearing behind its mass. The remaining 350 vessels formed up around her flagship, preparing for the charge. On the other side of the battlefield, the Krath fleet was doing the same. Krathvex had committed everything, just as Elena had hoped. His ships were arranged in a massive wedge formation, designed to punch through enemy defenses with overwhelming force. It was the most aggressive formation in Krath tactical doctrine, the one they used when they wanted to crush an opponent completely. 30 seconds, someone reported. Elena stood at the center of her bridge, watching the enemy fleet grow larger on the view screen. Her heart was pounding, but her mind was clear. This was the moment everything had led to. Every lesson from her grandmother, every simulation in the academy, every battle she had fought and won. 10 seconds. She took a deep breath. All ships, forward, maximum speed, everything we have. The human fleet launched itself at the enemy, and the Krath did the same. Two walls of warships rushing toward each other, weapons blazing, shields flaring. The distance between them shrank with terrifying speed. 5,000 kilometers. 3,000. 1,000. 500. The fleets collided in an explosion of light and fire that could be seen from distant planets. Ships tore into each other at point-blank range, weapons firing so fast that the individual shots became a continuous stream of destruction. It was chaos and death and horrible beauty, the ultimate expression of warfare between two civilizations. Elena's flagship took hit after hit, its shields flickering and failing, its hull breaching in a dozen places. Crew members died around her as the bridge was torn apart by enemy fire, but she kept giving orders, kept coordinating her fleet, kept fighting. Then, from behind the Krath formation, Marcus Cole attacked. 150 ships emerged from the asteroid's shadow, their weapons fully charged, their crews ready for battle. They hit the Krath rear with devastating force, catching the enemy completely by surprise. Ships that had been focused on the frontal battle now found themselves attacked from behind, their weak rear shields no match for concentrated fire. The Krath formation broke. Ships scattered in every direction, trying to respond to threats from multiple angles. But it was too late. The coordinated human assault tore through them, exploiting the chaos, destroying ship after ship. Enemy casualties at 60%, someone reported through the smoke-filled bridge. 70, 80. Elena watched the numbers climb, and for a moment, she allowed herself to hope. Then she saw the Krath flagship breaking through the chaos, heading directly toward her. Krathvex had realized what was happening. He knew he had lost the battle, but he could still win something else. He could still kill the human commander who had deceived him. Incoming flagship. Collision course, the navigator shouted. Evasive maneuvers. But it was too late. The damaged human flagship could not move fast enough. The Krath vessel slammed into them, not with weapons, but with its own hull, a ramming attack, the most desperate and most honorable of Krath combat techniques. The impact threw Elena across the bridge. She felt bones break as she hit the bulkhead. Alarms screamed. Fires erupted. The ship began to tear itself apart around her. Through the haze of pain and smoke, she could see a viewport, and through the viewport, she could see space. The Krath fleet was in ruins. Only a handful of enemy ships remained, and they were fleeing. The human fleet had won. She had won, but her ship was dying, and so was she. She could feel it. The life draining out of her broken body as the bridge decompressed around her. Then there were hands on her, dragging her through corridors, shoving her into an escape pod just before the flagship exploded into a million pieces. She caught one last glimpse of the battle through the pod's small window before unconsciousness took her. The last thing she heard was Marcus Cole's voice on the communication system, shouting orders, coordinating rescue operations, saving as many people as he could. And then there was only darkness. Elena woke up 3 weeks later in a hospital on Earth. Her body was wrapped in regeneration bandages, healing from injuries that would have killed anyone who was not receiving the best medical care humanity could provide. Marshal Chen was sitting beside her bed. "You are awake," the marshal said. "Good. We were worried." "The battle," Elena managed to say through dry lips. "What happened?" "We won, decisively. The Krath fleet was almost completely destroyed. Only 47 ships escaped to report what happened. Krathvex, dead. His ship was destroyed in the ramming attack. He gave his life trying to kill you." Elena closed her eyes. She had known this was likely, but hearing it confirmed still hurt somehow. Krathvex had been her enemy, but he had also been worthy of respect. "And our casualties? Heavy." We lost over 200 ships in the final exchange. But we won, Elena. We won the contest. By the terms of the agreement, the Krath must withdraw from human space. Will they honor the agreement? Marshal Chen nodded. They already have. Their remaining fleet pulled back to their own territory immediately after the battle. The Krath Council sent a formal message acknowledging their defeat and declaring that Elena Vasquez has earned the status of Krath enemy. Enemy? That sounds bad. It is not. In Krath culture, a Krath enemy is someone who has proven themselves worthy of the Krath's full respect and full opposition. It is the highest honor they can give to an outsider. They are saying that you defeated them fairly, that your victory was earned through skill and cunning rather than luck or accident. But I cheated. I lied to Krathvex. I broke my word. Marshal Chen smiled slightly. The Krath do not see it that way. They expected you to use every advantage, every trick, every deception available to you. That is what they would have done in your place. What impressed them was that you were willing to look Krathvex in the eye and lie to him, knowing what the consequences would be. They respect courage above all else, and lying to a war leader while he can see your face requires tremendous courage. Elena was quiet for a long time, processing this information. So the war is over? The war is over. The Krath will never attack human space again. They have declared us equals, worthy of existing alongside them in the galaxy. It is something they have never said about any other species. And it is because of what I did. It is because of who you are. The recruit no one believed in. The woman who studied the enemy her entire life. The commander who was willing to sacrifice her honor to save her people. Marshal Chen stood up and looked down at Elena with an expression of profound respect. You are a hero, Elena Vasquez, the greatest hero humanity has ever known. And when you are healed, there will be celebrations and medals and statues and all the recognition you deserve. Elena looked up at the ceiling, thinking about her grandmother, thinking about the video she had watched thousands of times, thinking about the last words her grandmother had spoken before the transmission ended. Understand them, she had said. Do not hate them. Understand them. Elena had done what her grandmother asked. She had understood the enemy. She had learned their language, their customs, their way of thinking, and she had used that understanding to defeat them, not through brute force, but through intelligence and courage and sacrifice. Her grandmother would have been proud. Marshal, Elena said quietly. Yes, I would like to see the stars. Marshal Chen helped her into a wheelchair and pushed her to a window overlooking the hospital's garden. Above them, through the dome of the facility, the night sky was visible. Millions of stars sparkled in the darkness, each one a reminder of how vast the universe was and how small humanity was within it. But they were no longer alone. They were no longer prey. They had earned their place among the stars through blood and sacrifice, and the mind of one extraordinary woman who had refused to accept defeat. Elena looked up at those stars and smiled. The war was over. The enemy had named her their greatest threat, and humanity would never forget the recruit no one believed in. She had done what she set out to do. Now it was time to rest, to heal, and to dream of the future she had fought so hard to secure. Somewhere out there, in the vast darkness between the stars, the Krath were telling stories about her. Stories about the human female who had outthought their greatest war leader, who had lied to his face and won, who had earned the title of Krath enemy through pure force of will. They would tell these stories for generations. And in their telling, Elena Vasquez would become something more than human. She would become a legend, but she did not care about legends. She cared about the people she had saved. The children who would grow up without fear. The colonies that would flourish in peace. The future that humanity would build because she had given them the chance. That was enough. That was everything. Elena Vasquez, Supreme Commander of Human Forces, closed her eyes and let herself sleep. The war was over. She had won, and tomorrow, for the first time in her adult life, she would not have to watch her grandmother's video. She already knew what it said. And she had finally, at long last, honored its message. The enemy had named her their greatest threat. But she had never been fighting for herself. She had been fighting for humanity. For her grandmother, for everyone who had ever believed that understanding was more powerful than hate. And in the end, she had been right. The stars shone on, unchanging and eternal. watching over a galaxy that was forever changed by the courage of one small, underestimated woman who had refused to give up. This was how humanity survived. This was how they earned their place among the stars, not through strength alone, but through the power of a mind that dared to think differently. And that was the greatest victory of all.